Hey, local growth academy. Welcome to another podcast episode. I got one of my great friends and amazing thought leaders in this space, Mike Gore-Hickman from Painter Growth. Mike Gore-Hickman, welcome.
What's up, Micha? Good to have you, brother.
Yeah,
Good to
man.
have you. Good to be here. I'm used
I
to
know, I know, I know, man. We cross paths all the time. Live events. Was at your mastermind recently, and we got another one coming up. Man, I'm really excited to just kind of dive into a bunch of stuff with you, man. You're always a wealth of resources. And with that being said, what tell me about you've got an upcoming mastermind. I know like we're sponsoring it, but tell me a little bit about that and what it is and when is it and what are we going to be doing there?
Yeah, it's like as the world moves more towards AI and computers and automation, we can't forget about the human touch. I think the human touch is going to be what, you know, ultimately separates good businesses that last from businesses that are just flashes in the pan. And we are committed to doing at least 2 live events every year. We call it our Painter Growth Mastermind, and we theme them differently every time.
Okay.
Our last mastermind was Millionaire's Mindset, which you were at, and
Yeah.
thank you for supporting us. We love having you, you guys, at our events. So we had Millionaire Mindset. Before that, we had you are not a painter mastermind. Encouraging people to grow their identities and get off the brush. You're not a painter. You're not your business. You need to make decisions like a CEO, like a board member, not just like an operator.
Yeah.
And then this coming up mastermind, we haven't officially announced it yet, but I believe that our theme is going to be, hang on. I want to get it right. It's, hold on. I got it right here. The theme coming up is built to last.
Okay.
And it's about building a business that will withstand the test of time, because that's what we all want. We want to build a business. We want to build a legacy. We want to build financial security. If you get hit by a bus tomorrow, what happens to your business?
Yeah.
Probably ceases to exist. But if you
Most
build
people,
a thing
yes.
that lasts, you have systems, you have people, you've delegated authority, you've delegated decision-making power, and it will hopefully last and provide for you and your family, long after you're gone.
That's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you know this, but like I grew up in a painter household, and my mom and dad got divorced in probably around like 1990, 1991, somewhere around that ballpark. And when they split, they both got into contracting. My dad got into flooring, and my mom got into painting. But I was living with my mom, so I spent a lot of weekends and summers and stuff doing painting. And then as I got into teenage years, it got to a point where I was like crew lead, and then I was managing like PMs over a bunch of different crews and stuff like that. And then that ended, and I went to the Air Force. I only stopped working there because I wanted to go in the Air Force, right? So I was a painter for like a little over a decade, starting from being like really, really little. What was interesting is like, even though our company did like a lot of volume, at one point it had like 13 crews. Like later in life, she ended up unfortunately passing away in a traffic accident. And like I was the head of the estate, which is not something really fun to go through, but like at some point most people will. So I did all that. And what was interesting is when we actually got into like looking at the business, like it could not survive without her. Like it was mine. I could take it. And I can heavily considered it. But when we actually got into the numbers and the systems and the processes, it was valueless without her minus the equipment. And so it was a really tough call. It was like, hey, this family business that I personally had put a decade into, minus a gap of going in the Air Force and stuff. But like I got back, and this is before the marketing easy stuff. I considered, hey, I could just take this business over. But I looked at it and it was like, this is not really viable. So
Yeah.
in that case, exactly what you're talking about, like if you get hit by a bus, in this case, get in a car accident and die, is that business going to sustain? And in my mother's case, unfortunately, that family business stopped with her. It was not, it would have been easier to just start a brand new business the way it was structured, the systems and processes. And it was not set up for that. So I love that you're going down that subject, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that a lot of those issues in their business. I mean, even me right now at Painter Growth, like we're working, and hopefully I can. I'm hoping to be able to bring a GM in to Painter Growth by the end of the year, so I can take a little bit of a step back operationally, focus on some other projects, still be involved from like a strategic level, and maybe the podcast phase still,
Mm-hmm.
but really step back operationally. And as I'm preparing for that, because it's like a 12-month, journey to prepare for that, I'm finding like so many legacy systems that do still exist in my head, even though I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job. There's just a lot. So I think if you set that goal like a year out, whoever's listening to your business, say, I want to step out of this role within a year. Like, what has to be true for you to truly not have any of your input anymore? Like, for example, one of the credit cards we use at Painter Growth is a personal credit card of mine. And it has a really high limit. It was great, and it gets lots of rewards. And I chose it because of the rewards that it gets. But because it's a personal card,
It doesn't transfer. It doesn't. It stops with you.
I can't delegate access to it. No one else can
I
pay
know.
that card off for me
I
and
know.
see the
I
balance.
know.
So every month I'm sending my bookkeeper that statement. And so I need to just make that decision or rip off the Band-Aid. All right, we're getting rid of this card. We're going to get a company card with worse benefits because that's, what's available. But the end goal is me being less involved in that one system. Right? That's just one thing. Right? And then there's way, way more, obviously, but that's just like one very clear-cut example. It's like, I need to remove myself. We need to make a decision that isn't ideal, but we made a legacy decision. Now we need to change it so that I can step back from that.
I personally like, and I still do this a couple times a year because I'm on the same goal too. Like, I am CEO, so I do have executive decisions that are still going through me. Like, I have department heads and they do their thing and they have autonomy to run the departments how they want. But there are still things that come to me, and things that, like, if I was fully removed, there's a gap, right? Like you were talking about with you, there's some things that like I need to work on as well. But what I really like doing, and I try to do it a couple of times a year, is do the fishing test, like where you just go on a vacation. Doesn't really matter if you're fishing or not. Just go on some vacation and completely disconnect. Yep. Absolutely, completely. No calls, no emails, no nothing. Personally, do whatever you want, but like work wise, just let everybody know I'm not answering anything. And what's interesting is, like, when I came back on this last run, I just got off of like a few back-to-back trips, and I came back to a slew of issues and problems that were stacking up waiting for me to solve. And I was like, okay, that's where I need to put attention to.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a great advice for anyone who wants to eventually get there. And you don't have to start with 2 weeks, right? Start with
you can start with a couple of days.
Start with email. Turn off your phone at 5 p.m. and turn it back on at 8 a.m. and see what types of voicemails you get, right? What has to be you. And then once you get some evenings done back to back, you chain a few together, try a weekend, right? These are things anyone can do.
Especially like an extended weekend, like a Memorial Day weekend, like a 3 or 4 day weekend.
Yeah. I mean, now we even level 3, right? Let's get even more hairy. And then try business day. And then try 2 business days, right? You can work up to 2 weeks, because if you just go 2 weeks, your business will be effed.
Oh yeah, 100%. I wouldn't say if you've never done a day to start with 2 weeks. That solid point there. I'm just saying, like, where I'm at now, I can get away with 1 to 2 weeks. If I were to go away for a month, though, I'd have pretty big problems. So there's a limit there for where I'm at operationally. I can walk away for 1 week easy. 2 weeks is pushing it. A month, I can't get away with right now because of where my systems are at.
Well, there's 2 parts of it. There's one, like, can I do it? Right? Can I walk away from my business for 2 weeks? Yeah, I actually could. But what is going to happen, or what's not going to happen if I do walk away for that time? One of the main roles that I'm in charge of right now, which is a significant one, is the podcast and strategic partnerships. So I'm dealing with industry partners. I'm dealing with people like you, with different influencers, with Sherwin-Williams, and that's my role. So if I left for 2 weeks, no one is talking to strategic partners. I guess we have a partnerships manager, but she's not making deals. She's selling sponsorships. She's not making deals. And I do often say that your ability to grow your business is limited only by your ability to delegate more and more complex tasks. And so I have not yet got grown to that spot to be able to delegate strategic partner deal making for my company. And that's next.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this a lot. Like, in your last event, you kind of outlined some like growth phases of companies, like the 100K mark to 500K. I can't forget exactly how you break them down, but like those growth tiers. And what's interesting is we have a similar breakdown with us too, with dealing with clients, is at certain revenue points. Not even revenue is just a baseline, but it's more like growth points. There's operational growth points that are typical at certain revenue points, but it's not 100% true. But there's like certain things, like a $500,000 company probably has X, Y, and Z problem. You can kind of predict it.
Yeah, the
And
revenues are benchmarks, but not set
not
in stone.
absolutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen people that are $800,000 companies that have $200,000 company problems,
yeah,
and vice versa. But it is loosely tied to revenue. Like you're not going to get to 10 million if you still have $200,000 business problems. But within reason, yeah, it can move a little bit. But my point though is like what you were just talking about, like your ability to delegate. Like at the really small end, it's just getting off the tools. That's the first thing you got to delegate is painting. You know, you get out of the tools, stop slinging a brush, and then it's after that it's around like admin and then PM and then sales and marketing. Like there's several things, and like it's almost like a symphony. Like you're the conductor of the symphony. You got to put different instruments in, and you're kind of conducting it. If you're a true CEO, you're not actually really doing much. You're just leading
yeah.
these different people in these different things. But monetarily, as you're growing up, you can't just replace every role immediately. It's like replace a role, train it, get it operational, then replace another role, train it, get it operational, so on and so forth.
So since this is being posted after Paint Blitz, here's like our 7 steps to scale from 250K to 5 million. These are
Awesome.
these are kind of like the 7 steps, and each step is enormous effort. But basically, number one, get off the tools as
Yep.
fast as possible. Your responsibility is to get off the tools immediately.
Yeah. 100%.
Number two, own your own marketing. Yes, you can use agencies. Yes, you can buy leads, but to truly grow a sustainable business, you need to understand marketing. You need to
Well, and even when marketing, and I know you know this about us, but like if you're hiring an agency, you need to make sure that the assets they produce are yours when it's done.
Mhm.
Like if you walk away from the agency, that it actually is your marketing, not a leased asset. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
I've seen painters, you get a website made and then have the agency hold that website ransom after they
Dude,
paid
I've seen
for
that
it.
more times than I can count. I hate it.
Yeah.
Um, and then you got VA, hire
Yeah.
VA.
Hire a VA or an admin. I prefer, especially for smaller businesses, to hire an overseas virtual assistant.
Yep.
1,000 a month for full time support. You would be amazed at how quickly they can change your life.
Oh yeah.
It's unbelievable. Understanding financial health, number four. So getting your numbers in order, getting your margins, profitability, understanding charge rate, piece rate, just being healthy financially. From there, implementing a management layer, so production manager, sales rep,
That's what
and
I was about to ask. Like, where does like things like PMs and an HR and sales manager that would fall for you into that layer?
yeah, maybe not HR yet. HR is going to be more like a $2.5 million
That's
plus
a bigger thing.
role. Yeah,
Yeah.
most small businesses don't need HR yet. So that management layer you'll want to bring on, I typically recommend a production manager first, usually when you're around that $500,000 to $700,000 mark, which
Yeah.
seems a little bit early for a lot of people. But if you truly want to scale, you need to bring that PM on as soon as possible so you can get out of production. And it's not just. I mean, you can make that push that out a little bit further to like a million maybe if you have incredible crew leads that act
Yeah.
as mini production managers, right,
Yeah.
handling
That's a
full
solid
job
point.
scope.
Yep.
Then general manager is a necessary component for scaling beyond 2 million. So I'd say once you get to that 1.5 to 2 million, I would recommend bringing on a GM to really own the whole business to get your time back, so you can focus on more of those visionary things, more of those strategic partnership type things, and then horizontal and regional scaling. Once you have a GM, that will allow you to do scale horizontally, which means adding different service offerings. Maybe you want to go into epoxy, maybe you want to go in cabinets, maybe you want to go into roofing. And I don't say vertical, because vertical integration or vertical scaling means you're owning more of your supply chain. So if you were scaling vertically, that would mean you're making your own paint, which isn't what
Hmm.
you're doing. You're scaling horizontally. And then regional scaling would be just, okay, let's acquire a business in a new region, or let's hire a GM and implement this business in a new region using cash as your vector instead of using your time. Because when you grow your business for the first time, you're using your time and effort. But when you're ready to scale regionally a second or a third time, you're now arbitraging cash and hiring that GM who's now going to scale this thing out. And it might cost you a few $100,000, but you'll save years of time because you have the systems and processes from doing it once.
And dude, I think this is fantastic because, like, I mean, like we have a little over 100 clients, and there's a few of them. There's a segment of those that have multiple locations, right? And a couple of those are really, really healthy multi-location businesses. A couple of them probably shouldn't have done that, right? They didn't have that management chain at their first location, and then like, yeah, let's just start this other business. And they don't even have the right infrastructure to run the first location correctly yet. And they're already scaling to a second location. And inevitably, that just creates friction. They're putting cash from that should be going to scaling up the first location, location A, and they're putting it into location B because they can't be at 2 and 1. And I think it's just like premature. I think the timing of this is like super critical.
Yep. Yeah, it's so funny. I'm sure you've heard this too, but like I've a client will come in, they'll have like no jobs, they'll be in very much level one on the tools. They'll come in, they'll join our coaching, they'll get support, they'll get their business like 50, 60K a month, and they'll get off the tools, they'll have a couple of crews they're running. And I've heard this so many times. They'll come to me and they're like, Mike, I'm gonna franchise my business. I'm like, dude, you just got off the tools. You do not have anything franchisable, nor I don't think you wanted to go down that route. That is not a good thing to do. So I think you're right. Like, you need to take care of your baby first before you go have other babies. And that means grow that baby into like an adult or at least an older child because you need
Yeah,
that maturity
I've
to be able to
I've
step
had
back.
several clients. I mean, so we have like a really small like internal coaching. Like it's mainly just to support like the marketing efforts we do. We don't have like the full blown like end to end coaching that you have. We just have like some coaching calls and some video lessons that kind of relate to marketing, right? Mostly it's making sure that when leads go, they actually can turn to sales, right? So it's a little micro coaching that we have internally. And what's interesting is we'll get on some of these like weekly coaching calls and we'll have people like, I want to franchise. And they barely, like you said, like 50 to 100K a month. And they're like talking about franchising. I'm like, no, it's such a bad idea because all you're going to do is extend yourself past. I mean, I don't know revenue wise exactly where that's going to be. Probably somewhere in the 2 to 5 million range, right?
Be between 2 and 5 million. So I have a
Yeah.
friend, but it's not just that. It's the operational
Well,
mindset.
like we said before, it's there's operational things and revenue things that kind of go in hand in hand. There's a little they can move a little bit, but yeah, it's about having that right team in place. If you don't have that leadership team there, like you should not do that.
So I have a friend, as an example. He's starting his business in Calgary, Alberta, and it was a line striping business. They did
Parking lot line striping.
parking lot line
Okay.
striping, asphalt,
Okay.
speed bumps, bollards, things like that.
Okay.
And he called it Everline Coatings, and he started his business in Calgary from scratch and built it to, I think it was 2.5 to 3 million per year in sales. He hired a GM. He's very systems oriented, had really clear vision, mission, values, really, really great branding, hired a GM. Business was completely operational without him and very profitable. And at that point, he's like, I'm going to franchise this thing. He built it from the start, knowing that he wanted to franchise it. So every time he needed a system, he documented, he processed, very systems oriented dude, got it to a point, profitable on its own. He's like, I'm going to franchise it. So he went and bootstrapped his own franchise in Canada, got to 13 locations within 3 years.
Wow.
He got to 13 locations within 3 years. It was pretty good. It was chaotic. I was actually helping him at the time with some marketing stuff, so I got the inner working of it. And after he got those 13 territories with like pretty good operators, things were, for the most part, 80% of them were doing well. He's like, I want to scale this into the States. And
Okay.
so he partnered at that point with a company called Franchise Fastlane, took on some external investment, and within 1 year, he went from 13 to 110 locations.
Wow.
So they won a whole bunch of franchise awards in 2023 and 2024 for like the fastest growing franchise, one of the fastest growing franchise in America. And they just did a raise at $80 million valuation.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, that's really good. That a little bit different story, but it reminds me a little bit of like Brandon Vaughn and his rapid growth of Wise Coatings.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brandon Vaughn is a over 10-year overnight success,
Yeah,
right?
for
Because I
sure.
think he was grinding for years and years and years on his own in the quiet, and then did Conquer, had amazing success with that. Then did Wise, and it's obviously had amazing success with that too. But It's that foundation. And it's the business owners that come in that, have a little bit of success and think they can go from level 2 to level 10. Whereas like there's so much learning, exponential learning on every step. Like I'm not at level 10 by any means, maybe level 5 or 6, but we got like, I compare myself, like the yardstick changes, right? I now compare myself with like $10 million and $50 million founders and even $1 billion founders. I'm like, wow, I'm a germ on a hair on their chin.
Yeah, even like a $10 million company is like a speck, and in the
Yeah,
really grand scheme of
it
things.
is.
And so it's like, well, and going back to like that 50 to 100K like mark, those people are like just barely getting like a million, half a million to million a year. Like I want a franchise. Like you're not even at like a fraction of a percent revenue share in your own city yet at that level, you know? And it's like, I think there's still more learning and growing to go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
there's
sure.
businesses whose line items have $10 million as the fraction, the roundest to the nearest 10 million. So that's always a
I,
humbling experience.
I forget the exact company that this was, or exactly, it was within the last few years, but I remember reading this story. Like some guy got sent to prison for fraud. But what he did, and I believe it was Microsoft, he just like made up a company and started sending invoices to like an accounts payable thing, and they just started paying it.
I think it was Mike. I think they sent it to Microsoft. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean he was doing this for years,
or
collecting
Boeing maybe.
a ton
Yeah,
of money. But think about that. You're sending like 10, 50, $100,000 invoices, and you're such a giant company, you don't even consider that and you just
yeah,
pay it. Like how big do you have to be where that kind of revenue is like pennies, you
yeah.
know? It's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, I love it.
But what I don't want to do is I don't want to be sitting here from a podcast studio diminishing people's work and their dreams and everything that they've done. I think that we can bring this back, and anyone who's in that like 0 to 500K to $1 million, I think we could probably come put our heads together and think of what are the next steps supposed to be for these people and how can they move forward. Because getting a business from 0 to 1 million is everyone, all the entrepreneurs say that's the hardest thing, is
I
getting that
agree.
proof of concept is the hardest thing. And then scaling beyond that is much easier. You have more cushion and leeway, but 0 to 1 million is by far the hardest. So if you've done
100%.
that, congrats. I mean, what would you say then as your recommendation for someone who's gotten to $1 million? What's their next step?
I think after $1 million, it's mostly leadership and delegation. That's my take. I mean, that's where I'm at, and everybody that I see that is in that like $1 to $10 million company range, it's kind of where you are. Like you kind of mentioned it earlier, like being able to step away from what you do. You got to have a general manager, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I think that there's going to be some natural people that come into play earlier, like you mentioned, like HR is not one of the first people. That's going to be way later on. But at some point, if you wanted to truly remove yourself, you're going to have that at some point. A general manager, probably not the first hire, but at some point you're going to need it. So I think it's like understanding the order of operations. And what I see mostly is that getting off the tools, like you said, and then it's normally admin and then project management, and then somewhere around the same time frame as that, it's hiring a marketing agency, and then after that, it's normally hiring salespeople and then developing a sales manager, and then after that, it starts becoming more like traditional like department leader roles. You know,
Yeah.
um, that's typically what I see in that growth. Does that align with what you typically see and recommend?
Yeah, I think that's the right order for sure. But I do want to like share one thing that never goes away, and I think a lot of us get this anxiety about our businesses, right? Something goes wrong with a bad day, bad week. Um, I'm kind of having a crap week in the business right now, so it's like it's very kind of timely to share. But we all have times in our businesses and our lives where we have like anxiety around money, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is the number of zeros that is involved, and what level of financial issue creates that pit in your stomach, versus before. Like when you're just starting your business, if you get an unexpected bill for $500, like it's a gut punch, right? It can like completely like wreck your day, wreck your week.
Mm-hmm.
But now if you, as you grow your business, you get to the multi-millions, you're like a $500 bill, it's like rats, that sucks, I'll pay it, not a big deal. Then you grow a little bit further and then you get a $5,000 bill, and that's the level of gut punch that like stops you in your tracks, and you're like, shoot. And then so we get to the point where the $5,000 hurts, but it's like not crazy. This week alone I have had three different potential pulls on money that all are about $25,000.
Ooh, that's big.
Yeah, so it's like $75,000 total,
Yeah.
ish, maybe a little bit more, and that's not all going out, but there's like the potential for a lot of that to go out at one time, and so
Yeah.
it's tough. That's like it hurts a lot, and but I'm still at the point, like if that did happen, like food's not missing from the table, bills are all getting paid, team's still getting paid.
But it's enough
Um,
to have anxiety and stress.
it's enough to have anxiety and stress,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
crazy because at the end of the day, it's just numbers on a screen. That's all money is these days. It is numbers on a screen. And the more numbers on the screen you have, the better you're doing, apparently. But all it is numbers on the screen. At the end of the day, it's who you are as a person, and kind of the actions that you put out to the world that define who you are, not what the numbers on the screen say.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the
Just getting philosophical here.
I know, and I love actually. In college, my favorite class was philosophy.
Me too. I
I
took,
took
I
I
took so
took a
many
bunch of
courses.
them. I really love that whole just creative thinking, right? And one of the things in my earlier, so I've been in business for 19 years, and I'm probably somewhere like where you said like Brandon Vaughn. Like I've had a lot of years where like my feet were churning under the water, but I'm just not moving anywhere. Lots of struggles. And for me, about 5 years ago is when a lot of things just really clicked for me. And I realized that the absolute number one thing I can do to move the needle in all aspects of my life is focus on myself first. And so my self accountability was kind of like the 7 levels of leadership. Like you can't lead other people if you can't lead yourself. And
Yep.
I'd heard that, I'd read it, but I didn't like really own it or do it, you know? And so like the more I focus on my stress level, like you were talking about stress, like I started becoming hyper aware of what my triggers were. And prior to that, I just didn't. I'd have a bad day and I'd flare up. I'd get like emotional. I'd get angry. I'd get temperamental. And like I didn't really pay attention to what was doing and what wasn't. And so I was not super pleasant to be around on a daily basis, right? And then I went through like a kind of a very big self reflection, like what triggers me? Why is it triggering me? And ask myself lots of deep questions, like why does that bother me? Should it really bother me? And through a lot of that, I could majorly turned around like my temperament, my ability to control, my ability to stay cool under stressful situations. Yeah, I still have stressful situations. You're always going to. I still have points of anxiety, but I know what they are. I know I pace my day, and I actually order my schedule, and my day is actually in line with that in mind. There are certain things, if I put in the first hour of my day, I'm going to have a really, really bad day, you
Yeah.
know? But if I can switch that order, I'm fine with all of it. And it's just, I figured that out about myself. And so I
But other
became,
people will be the opposite, where it's like if you have something later in the day, it's like you're anxious about that all day until that happens. So
yeah. And everyone's different. And my biggest point is not what you order, is that I paid attention to my habits at a really, really detailed level. Journaled, took lots of thoughts. Every time I got mad, upset, angry, every time I maybe talked back to somebody or treated someone like in a way that I didn't align with my core values, I'd be like, why did I do that? And I would just break it down, be like. And after a while, I started finding emerging patterns about myself, and I was like, okay, well, I need to. Uh, um, Alex Ramosi talks about this a lot. When you train, everything is like just behaviors. Like if you have a sales thing, it's like I heard this objection and I answer it this way and I don't get the outcome I want. I just change the response. But you can do that on like micro and macro levels. And so I did that a ton. And what's interesting is like my ability to hire, recruit, lead, partner, all that stuff just got exponentially better, And I'm still not where I want to be. I'm still growing. But
yeah.
it was interesting because I had just majorly plateaued and was stuck there for years. And then I just said, I'm not even going to work on these things. Like I have enough like marketing and sales and business skills. Let me just focus and raise myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
and doing that very probably not ironic to people that have already felt the same thing. But I think for anyone that is stuck, I'd say like when you can just focus on yourself and not worry about the guy next to you and just do your thing and own, you become a leader by example. You know, just I don't know, just everything gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the point to pull out from that, if anything, is you can't necessarily control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond.
Yep. I actually say that to my kids a lot now, but like 10 years ago, I didn't,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah, 100%. And I remember when I was a kid, my parents telling me that, and it was one of those things, one of those phrases like I heard, but just never cared about, paid attention to, never owned. And
Yeah.
now I really, really do. Like I'm really, really intentful with how I react to everything, including numbers on a page, like you talked about. Like, why does X amount of dollars that I'm just lost or have to pay, why does that bother me? You know?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I think that one is the logical reason is we spend 8 to 12 hours per day on our project, on our businesses that we love doing. But if we didn't have that financial motivation to at the end of the tunnel, would we still be doing what we were doing? And as much as you love your company, it's probably going to be a no, right? I have so many painters that will say, I just love painting so much. It's like, okay, well, would you rather paint a house for free or would you rather sit on your couch for free? Right. Well, that's, obviously most people would rather sit on their house. So it's like, okay, we'll sell profitable jobs, quit undercharging.
Oh yeah, 100%. I want to go down that rabbit hole of pricing with you because I'd love to get your take on it. But you just triggered something. I forget who it was, but I saw a short in the last like week or two. It was a comedian actually. Um, I'm just forgetting who. But there was this point where he stopped and was saying this like slight serious moment in the middle of like his comedic act, and he said something. He said like the way I view rich is not an absolute money value, but if making more money wouldn't change what I do on a day-to-day basis, you're already rich. I think that's an interesting thought that I've never thought about. I mean, if I made $1 million more a month, I'd absolutely be doing different things than I am right now. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
sure.
So by that definition, I'm not rich. But you take someone like Bill Gates, bro, you can give him $1 billion more a month. Like, what's he going to do different?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I might buy another yacht, but he's not going to change his day to day activities. You
Yeah. I
know?
mean, I don't even think you have to go to that level
No,
of,
I don't. I'm just saying that's an extreme example.
yeah. You go to someone like, let's go back to Brandon Vaughn, right? I think that if you gave him another $1 million a month, I think he'd still be doing the same thing.
Yeah,
He's founded a software company with Firebus. He's scaling Wise to the moon with he has a CEO, a CEO in place. His
agreed.
role is basically hiring and placing CEOs into his multiple businesses, and that's what he does.
And I think he might buy himself a bigger plane, but he'd still be doing his private pilot thing too. You know,
Yep.
but it'd still be the same behaviors. Yeah, I agree. Um, but you were talking about pricing, and so back to like the tiers, the $100,000 tier, the $500,000 tier, and like all the way up. What are your thoughts relative to those tiers, and what kind of patterns do you see relative to how people price?
So if I go back to those tiers, I'm just going to share my screen on um, that presentation, that slide again. So if anyone wants to like listen in, check out the video part of this. So number 4, we have financial health. Now, of course, you don't have to wait until you hire a VA and when you're marketing, you get off your tools to worry about your finances. Like level 1 finances should be like level 0, right? You should not be bidding jobs that are not profitable. Couple of the key numbers that you should be paying attention to are number 1, your charge rate. So what your charge rate is how much your company bills out on average per hour of labor. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
a $5,000 job, and I let's just go easy. If you have a $10,000 job and it takes 100 hours to do it, that's $100 per hour. Materials,
Mm-hmm.
labor, profit, everything. A trap that a lot of small businesses get into as they're starting is that they bill as if they are a painter and don't include that in their gross profit, right? So they're getting a 50% gross profit, but they're painting as part of their labor and they're not including their labor into their rate. So if they were to hire a painter to replace themselves, they wouldn't have 50% gross profit. They would only have like 20% gross profit because they're
Or
not
less
accounting for that,
sometimes.
or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to be billing at least, I would say, we find between $75 and $90 per hour of production in your business in order for you to get off the tools. And two full-time painters can replace your income. So if you get your business to the point where you're employing two full-time painters producing 40 hours a week around that, 75 to $90 per hour charge rate, you'll replace your income and you'll have all of your time back to focus on the next thing, which is going to be your marketing.
I love that. I love that. I mean, a lot of people focus on like production rates or, COGS times 2 or 2.5. Like, how do you focus on like the difference between charge rate and those other kind of models? I mean, there's a few ways to kind of get to the same profit margins, but like, what do you think about those methods as well?
Um, Sorry, can you clarify a little bit?
So like you're talking about charge rate, like you said, you got to be between like 75 to 95 an hour. I think you said that's
Yeah.
kind of like healthy, but like if you're like looking at a job and you're figuring out like, hey, here's my hour cost, here's my material cost. Like one pricing model is to look at it like you take the labor and materials cost and times it by 2 or 2.5.
Yep.
And other people have production rates where it's like it's this much per square foot. That's also inclusive of like the labor cost,
Yep.
profit, materials, all the other kind of things. Like I think that if you're properly pricing, all of those models should probably check the boxes anyways.
They should get
Like
to
how
about the same rate.
you're going
What
to get the same spot, right?
Yeah, I see so many contractors do so many different things, even after we tell them to change. Like
Yeah.
one thing that I see a lot is guys will go, they'll put in the price for the job and they'll add paint on top of it, right? And so say they'll put in the price of the job. Okay, this job's going to be $2,000, and then paint is going to be $350. So you have that kind of split out, and they put in the price that they're paying for the paint, and they'll have both those things split up. And when you have it split up either like that or by room, what ends up happening is the homeowner now looks at it as if it's an a la carte service. So if you have every room put together, like broken out, customer looks at it, it's like, oh, $350 for the bathroom. 350, that's a lot for the bathroom. Why do you think it's so much for the bathroom? And now you got to start justifying prices on a minute level, and people are going to pick and choose what they want to remove. Little did they know that you already gave them a discount because you're doing the whole house. So now if they start picking and choosing, you're still giving that discount. You're not doing the whole house anymore. So instead of that, what I recommend is putting it all in one price. And some people will disagree with me, but this is the right way to do it, guys. I'm not budging on this. Is your entire price as one number at the end for the entire project, step by step, inclusions, exclusions, one price. And then you can add some upsell options if you want. And make that price a good number, like it's a very specific number, $6,821.14. That's the number for your whole paint job. And if you want to add the ceilings, it's this much. If you want to add the basement, it's this much. Okay, those are the upsells. Or if you want to go to premium paint, it's this much. Cool. So we have the price. There's nothing to pick apart. And that price should be, like you said, your labor plus your materials times 2 plus 15%.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I do it. So times 2 plus 15%. And that gives you 50% gross profit after your everything is accounted for.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's a fantastic way to go about it, and I'm 100% with you on that. Like, not breaking things down a la carte. Um, I think that the psychology behind that is right because people will just go, "Oh, it's this, it's this, it's this," Um, what immediately, like an example in another industry that comes to mind is like catering. Like, if I wanted to hire like a personal chef to come cook for my wife and I, that meal is going to be a lot per meal. But if I hired the same chef to cater for like 100 people, the cost per meal would go down
Yeah.
a lot. You know what I mean? Like if we're breaking things down on like a per unit basis, every industry, I don't care what it is, every industry has economy of scale. Like this is a known studied thing. If I buy one unit of something versus buying 10,000 units of something, I'm going to get a different price.
The
And
best
so,
the best example I heard on this in this path, I thought was amazing, is the restaurant example. It's like, imagine if you go in a restaurant and the customer asks, all right, how much is so again, a steak, if you got a $45 here for the steak, how much do you pay for the steak?
yeah,
Right? Or what if you
yeah,
broke out, what if the servers broke out the cost of the food versus the service and you had to
yeah,
like pick it? It's like, you know what, I'll pick it up at the counter myself. Can you get rid of that service fee? Or like, can
yeah.
I bring in my own steak and you cook that? And then we can just like, I got my buddy has a butcher shop and I get really wicked deals on beef. Can I just bring in my own steak?
I know. And so my brother is a chef, so I actually know this. But like food cost tends to be like 28% on average, so
Okay.
it's like basically a quarter, right? So you'd be arguing with over there like that $50 steak. You'd be arguing over like 12.50, and like okay, so that steak costs them 12.50. What are you going to get it from your butcher for like 11.50? Are you really going to even debate that for like a dollar? You know what I
Listen,
mean?
people say about paint. It's like, hey, I can just pick up paint. I know a guy or whatever. Like, can I supply my own paint? Right? It's actually, no, you can't supply your own paint, right? I don't know if it's been frozen. I don't know if it's been in your shed for 3 years. I can't stand behind the quality if you supply your own paint, just like the chef wouldn't be able to stand behind the quality if you supplied your own steak.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can't warranty or do a product where you're not supplying it. I don't understand why painters still do that. I wouldn't allow it at all because you're right. Like, you know, they could have had that from a previous job. It could have been frozen. It could be separated. It could be all kinds of things. And then you put it on the wall, and then you're gonna have to warranty it when it does something wrong later. That's not a good thing. And
No.
the reality is like almost all paint contractors get a discounted price. Maybe they charge their customers retail. Maybe they give them the full discount. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle, or maybe their production rates and it's just not even considered, right? But even if someone is, which is what again, like what you should do, just one some thing. But like even if they did break it, like this is all of the job and this is all of the paint. Even if like let's just say that like your example earlier, like the paint's 350. If I go, I'm probably not going to get better pricing than that. Like because if I walk into Sherwin Williams not having a paint company, and I walk in, I'm going to get a much higher price than you are owning a paint company. Like it's not even worth it. I got to go there. I got to order it. I got to pick it up and put it in my truck, and I'm also going to pay more for it.
I mean, yeah, it's been a while since you've dealt with for homeowners, right? Homeowners are crazy a lot of the time. So it's,
I
you're
don't
not
think that's
arguing with
changed
logic.
much, but yeah,
It's not a logic thing that you're dealing with. It's just like an emotional thing. People want the control. But I think as a painting contractor community, we could do a better job at just being firmer and being like, no, we can't do that. But a lot of painters are in that position where they need every job they can get. So they're willing to say yes to unusual demands in order to get that job. And that's operating your business from a place of scarcity versus if you had 50 jobs lined up, would you take that job?
well, it's also not only scarcity, but I would also say it's. I find that's also a really typical outcome of when you don't know how to sell and communicate effectively.
Hmm.
Because like if with my sales skills, if someone came and said I want to order my own paint, I know how I could handle that well, and I think that most of the companies most of the clients that I have that I'm dealing with that are in that 100 to 1 million space, probably one of the biggest things they could do for themselves is learn how to communicate more effectively. Not just selling, but just communication in general, because it helps affect your leadership and your partnerships and your selling and everything else. It's just a
Hmm.
really, really big skill.
And we can double click on that. Critical conversations is a undervalued, underappreciated, under talked about skill that every business owner, every leader needs to understand and recognize what a critical conversation is, when you need to have one, how to have one tactfully, because a
Mm-hmm.
mishandled critical communication, critical conversation can result in friendships being destroyed, painters quitting, lawsuits. But a good critical conversation can result in an amazing employee experience, increased productivity, better buy-in, better camaraderie. And what I mean when I say a critical conversation is a conversation that needs to happen that will impact performance and be just a significant conversation. So you can have a critical conversation with your wife, with your spouse, with your kids, but in this case, it's like with an employee. So if an employee is underperforming, you have a couple of different directions. Number one, do you make snide remarks at them haphazardly until they either figure it out or leave? Or do you talk behind their back to the other employees? Or do you approach them head on, have an adult conversation, structured in a way with empathy to get your point across, to let them know that something needs to change?
And most of the contractors that I see that are stuck, that can't break past a barrier, do one and two examples. They either like do snide comments or they talk behind people's back, and it just kills camaraderie and morale and culture, and people leave. And
Yeah.
then they wonder why they can't find good employees. They probably had good employees that they just didn't treat them right. That's a
Yeah.
huge thing I see all the time. Bugs me to no end.
100%.
Yeah.
What's a critical conversation you had to have recently, last
Dude, I
12
had one
months?
this morning. I have them, I don't want to say frequently, but
As often as necessary.
as often as necessary. Sometimes there's a couple in a week. Sometimes there's months without any of them. But like backing up again, like I said, about 5 years ago for me, the end of 2019 is where I had like a couple like coming to Jesus moments with my personal accountability. And it was about that time that I actually started this company. Left my previous agency for some partner issues I won't get into. And really, really owned in like personal ownership, communication, just that's really 90% of like my learning and stuff is about that. Critical conversations is one of those things that I had to majorly rehab how I was doing. Like if I've been with my wife now for um like 18 years, so we've been together for a long time, which is great, but like and we've been good the entire time, right? But even within good, there's been moments of like meh good and wow, really, really great. You know what I mean? And so if we look at like that relationship, every time I go back to a point where like I was avoiding critical conversations, you know, or she would blow me off or I would blow her off, there's something that there's a tension about a subject and we just wouldn't sit down and intelligently talk it through. We just berate each other, like you said, like just with employees, like do anything like that. It was just toxic for the relationship. And we're at a place now, thankfully, like we just don't do that. We have really great conversations and really, really happy with where that relationship is. But that wasn't her before. That was me before that was limiting
Mhm.
that, you know? But at the same time, I was doing it with my team as well. I've had a few really important critical conversations with some team members, like one that was having a hard time with like trying new things and breaking out and experimentation because they're just fearful of like repercussions, which means that I created an environment that they were fearful of repercussions, right? So that was like both a coaching moment for them, but also a learning moment for me. That's a pretty big critical conversation, right?
Yep.
We change policies, we change practices, I change communication styles, you know what I mean? All because of that critical conversation. All the while challenging that person to change some things on their end too, right? Had one today with performance related issue and more of a follow through issue with a team member, and you know good coaching moment. I think we learned a lot. We came around with some takeaways both from our side and from their side, workflow issues, and basically we just I view these as like these critical conversations are like learning moments. And if you, like you said, if you handle them intelligently, you'll learn things about you, you'll learn things about them. You might get to a path where that conversation still ends and we're going to part ways. You might. But
Yep.
more often than not, I found that like problems that explosively go away, like employees just quitting or girlfriends or spouses just leaving you, that didn't just happen at that moment. It's been happening for a while and you've avoided big conversations going up to it you didn't even pay attention to,
Yep.
you know?
I think that also with a critical conversation, to give like some tangible closure to this conversation, to this part of our conversation. Um, let's go to an underperforming employee as an example, right? A painter is underperforming. Maybe they missed a couple of shifts or they were late. Right? Are we going to go tackle this head on and say, "Hey, Johnny, you've been late. I'm frustrated by it. You got to shape up until, or else you're out. If you don't start showing up on time, every single day, you're fired." That's one way of approaching it, right? The
Mm-hmm.
other way of approaching it is first by like seeking to understand, like what is really going on, right? And we had like an example with a client who was dealing with an underperforming employee, and he approached the conversation. He actually messaged me. He's like, I have this pain who's like not showing up, and he's got this going on, that going on, and so I'm like, no, don't just jump down his throat. Seek to understand first. Hey, this is what I've noticed. Tell me, is anything going on? And it turns out that he was going through a separation with his spouse, and he just needed a few days to like get his shit together so that he could get back. He wanted the job, needed the job, was excited about it, but didn't realize what was um, happening as a result. So you need to seek to understand. I notice this is going on. Can you tell me about it? What do you see from your perspective? Why is this
Mm.
happening? Is there anything I can do to support? Right. And then from there, you can, go a number of directions depending on their response. Okay, you remember this team. Here's what the expectations are. Um, Here's, I think, what we should do for like over the next 30 days. Do you agree with this plan? Yes or no? And then get a mutually agreed outcome from it. Right. Yeah, that's probably where I would stop that.
I love it, man. I'm a huge fan of like Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. And basically, the entire book is like tactical empathy, is what he calls it.
Yeah.
Um, which is, I think the tactical is a little bit of a misnomer. It's not aggressive empathy. It's not tactical, really. It's more strategic. But I love the tactics, and I use a lot of my communication style based on some of the bigger takeaways from that book. And I agree. Like he talks about it a lot in that book. It's like, don't guess. Like ask questions around it. Find out what's going on, because empathy is a superpower. Um, the best cultures, and the reason why like companies like yours and like Brandon Vaughn have big, growing, scaling companies, and you have influence, um, is because of empathy. You know, I heard something a long time ago. No one cares what you know until they know that you care, and that's kind of what this means. Like that. Imagine that employee situation you just talked about with the person that was, had the partnership issue and was underperforming at work. Imagine that boss just came in and like yelled at him. He's already stressed at a deep personal level because of personal stuff. He's probably trying his best to not bring it to work, but it is, right? And it sounded like he just needed some help and a little forgiveness and a little grace. And if you don't do that, the person is just going to be more mad, more upset, probably say F this, leave the job, and now you're out an employee. But
And
that
he's out
little
of
bit of
job.
yeah, he's out of a job now, you're out of an employee. But that little bit of grace, yeah, you might have an underperforming employee for the next 30 days. There might be some stuff going on, right? But that grace, man, you can help coach them, guide them through that, you're going to have a person that like really appreciates the empathy that you showed them during that moment. And I think that's the true mark of culture.
Yep, culture and leadership, and that's the quickest path to having employees that will, take a bullet for you, right? Will be with you through thick and thin. Is being an empathetic leader that gives grace. Like giving grace is not weakness. I think that's what
No.
people will compare that to. It's like I'm forgiving you too many. Like there is a difference. Like someone, if you're getting taken advantage of from an employee
Yeah.
standpoint,
Yeah.
right? That's one thing. But if you're giving grace because someone's going through a hard time and you're trying to understand them and support them and be empathetic, like that's not weakness. That is strength because you're putting
Mhm.
their needs ahead of the business. But
Yeah.
there are some people who are just are in the victim lifestyles where they'll have something new happen every single week, and that just it's a trend. So you just need to recognize, is it a trend or is it something truly happening on in this person's life that we need to support them through?
Yeah. But and then and like you said earlier, like once you understand, you can then make better decisions. But if you just look at the symptom of, hey, this person's underperforming or this person showed up late a couple times or something, and then you just like, F you, you're out, you're fired, like that omits a lot of things. Maybe it was a condition that you're okay with coaching them through. Or maybe you learn that this is a pattern and it's not worth coaching them through and you do need to let them go. But at least you can stand behind that decision a whole lot better once you actually have gone through that learning loop.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you're right, but it is a balancing act, and a lot of painting contractors who are going through this, finding this podcast, finding my podcast, investing in these things for the first time, are um, are becoming leaders for the first time, and they're having employees for the first time, and they're having these opportunities to have these conversations for the first time. And and the way that you should be approaching these conversations are not necessarily obvious, right? So people are making these mistakes, but if anyone's listening to this podcast or listen to my podcast or invest in books and time reading and becoming better, like you will be able to grow your company successfully. It's not a difficult thing to do, but if you just try to do it without learning the mistakes that other people have made, it will be difficult. It'll
Very
be
difficult.
very, very, very hard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of the biggest things that I've done for myself, and I think that everyone listening should do, first of all, that everyone should just go hire you as their coach because you're amazing. But I think that like the bigger picture is we should all be trying to hire coaches and reading books and going to events and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube and reading, all that stuff. Like self education is massive. I think that the biggest reason that like primary schools exist, and I think that in current culture, it's actually not doing a very good job at this, but I think what primary schools and like elementary, high school, college, not necessarily graduate degrees, but like undergraduate, like the primary thing that those things should be teaching was how to learn on a lifelong basis. Because I don't care what you cram into like a 4-year degree at a bachelor school. Like you fast forward 30, 40 years later, it's just nothing. It's a speck. It's just nothing. And none of that, even all of those schools, they teach you like skills, you know, but problem solving and the communication and having a problem with the teacher and getting into peer groups and those things I think are far more valuable than the actual like history lessons or math lessons you learn. You know what I mean? Again, not inclusive of like very, very specific roles, like maybe a mathematician probably actually needs to pay attention to math class, but
Or
like
a
for you,
doctor.
for you and I, like, dude, I can write a formula in a Google sheet and I don't really need to think about math anymore. Not really. So I think like the schools should be there to teach people how to be lifelong learners. And I think that somewhere along the lines are, I'm not sure if it's the same in Canada, but probably is because there's so much in common between US and Canada. I know within the US, it's really like, I'm done with school. That's the mentality. I'm done. I'm checked off.
Yeah.
And it's a
You know what I
wrong
think
way
it
to.
is? I think it's the now that you're talking about it, I think it's uh the standardized testing that
I
destroys people's
a
willingness
hundred
to
a
learn.
hundred percent. Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
reason that you need to do the 90% of people need to do the things that are involved in the SAT, right? But it doesn't if
Yep.
it doesn't apply to what you're trying to do. And but I mean that's why traditional universities and colleges
They're
are
struggling right now hard.
declining, right? Because
Really hard.
there's people like there's alternative education. There's companies like me who I'll teach you one specific thing. You come, you pay us a fraction of the degree of 1 year of university or college, and you learn how to make money in a trade, right? Versus paying
You
a
think
hundred
about like
thousand
ROI,
dollars.
bro. Like, I mean, what am I going to go pay 50 grand for some bachelor degree? I'm going to get like a $40,000 job. I'm going to have 40K in loans that I'm going to pay off for the next 20 years. Or I can go buy like a coaching program like yours for, a few thousand or so. I don't know exact pricing, but like it's really, really affordable. And then I can take that little investment and learn how to make tens to hundreds of $1,000s a month on repeat
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
I mean, the ROI is
In
like,
a
it's like
non AI disruptable business, right?
yeah, 100%.
So we're gonna
I
be
think the
wild.
only way, like,
Robots paint houses.
yeah, AI is going to change a ton of stuff, but like until we have robots that are painting walls, which is a far ways in the future, like AI is not going to change the trades. AI
Yeah,
is going to disrupt my job way faster than it's going to disrupt
yeah.
painting. You
Same.
know? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's why we're trying
yeah.
to figure out how to
It's an
use it.
information and tech is it's disrupting the fastest, but like you can't use an AI to do like at least not currently to do like brain surgery. You know, it can't like drive a school bus. It's
We'll
not going
be
to put out a
driving a school bus will be very soon, within 18 months, I bet.
self-driving. Yeah, it's coming. I'm just saying now, like it's coming.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars, self-driving. Like, it's going to
I
be a thing.
saw a reel this morning or yesterday where an AI drone beat the best human drone racers at an obstacle course race.
Oh, those like crazy obstacle course races.
Yeah, so the AI self-driving drone just yeah crushed
Yeah,
everyone.
I know. Um, I've Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about something I think is kind of interesting. I saw this clip where he's saying like, in the future, like all cars on the road are going to be all like AI robot driven, right? And then if you want to take your like Mustang and you want to drive it, you're going to be driving like you're going to have to like take it somewhere and drive on a track. And the other person who was on the podcast was like, no, that's not going to happen. It's like, well, wait a second, let's back up. In early 1900s, everyone had a horse and you drove the horse in the road. And that got replaced with an automobile. And now to ride a horse, you take it somewhere and drive. You have to have a second place. You can't just drive it down the road,
Yeah,
you know? And so I think it's like the horse to car. We're going from this car to AI. I think
yeah.
just as big, if not bigger, movement
I
than that.
love that comparison from horse and buggy. Because yeah, there's some specific
Yeah.
roads and cities that you can take a horse on still, right? If you have a
And there's places where like police
permit.
still have horses,
Yeah.
yeah. But 99.9% of the time, you're not driving a horse down the road. If I take a horse out of my driveway and start driving it down, it's not going to go well. I
Yeah,
live close
yeah,
to.
police officers and fire or first responders and everything will probably always be manual, or for the most part be manual, so they can go quickly and around vehicles, but
Of course.
and go chase other cars and stuff. But like for the average person, very soon it's going to be
I was at
driving.
my wife and I went to Phoenix a few weeks ago, and there was a whole company. As soon as we hit the ground, we saw these ads for it. It had a weird name that I forgot, but there was a company there that it was driverless cars. You
Waymo,
order them like an Uber. You download this
Waymo.
app,
Yeah, it's
huh?
Waymo. Waymo.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, they
and
have all the funky.
and they're really cool looking. They had all these cameras and stuff on the top. It
Yeah.
almost looks like the Google cars that go around and take Google Map pictures. It's like that, like these big things on top with cameras.
Well,
Driving
actually,
as
Tesla
drivers.
this week is beta testing their driverless taxi service in Austin.
Yeah,
And
that's
once
amazing.
they unlock that, they'll have 2 million cars on the road that are all capable of full self-driving and being put into the autonomous taxi service. So that'll change it overnight as soon as that
And
happens.
the crazy thing is that's gonna a lot of people are gonna oppose that for sure. But that's just gonna make way safer roads. Way safer roads.
When I'm in an Uber and I got someone driving who's just the most jerkiest driver ever, talking on his phone the whole time, like
Hmm.
it's not safe. I don't want to be, people don't want that interaction. They want to be in a vehicle by themselves. They don't have to worry about someone talking on their phone and wanting a tip. It's
And computers aren't AI computers aren't going to get distracted. They're mechanical, so they could still brake, but so can mechanical parts on a car. Like if you look at traffic accidents, like nearly every accident is caused by negligence of some kind.
yeah,
Very few accidents get caused by mechanical parts on a car breaking.
yeah. It's cell phones, it's drinking, it's distractions, it's kids in the back,
Yep.
it's these things that are causing the
Yep. 100%.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a big disruptor. AI in general, and we're utilizing AI a ton, and it's like more every week. We're finding new ways to use it. You know,
Yeah,
at this
100%.
point, we're working on apps and all kinds of cool things. And
I won't make a decision before consulting one of my ChatGPT
yeah,
models, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, it's cut down research for us a ton. Like simple things like we do web and SEO and stuff, but like there's like anytime you want to do SEO on something, you've got to consider what the client has already done, but also what the competitors in the area are doing, right? It's a natural thing.
Yeah.
What used to take us 20 to 40 hours of research can now be done in like an hour. It's not that it's different things. We're still analyzing the same points, but we're using machines to do it in a fraction of the time.
Yeah, if anyone
And
and listening in hasn't used ChatGPT or Grok's deep research function, it is incredible. Like you want to create a business plan, right? You want to create like a
deep
full
research is
blown
amazing.
full
Yep.
blown strat. Like I use the $200 a month ChatGPT so I can get unlimited access or almost unlimited access to deep research. I just like yeah, it's insane.
I did a little painter gathering when I was in Arizona, and it was only for like the painters that were actually there. A little small thing at our Airbnb. We had like 4 or 5 people, and we were just like chatting marketing strategies and stuff. It was really fun. And one of the things I did at the start of the thing was like, hey, here's something cool that we're doing. I want to show you this. And I took one of the guys that were there and I had a chat GPT prompt, but it has to be run in deep research mode. If you don't do it in deep research mode, the results are horrible. But I basically had it give us an entire marketing analysis and marketing plan for a business, for a painting business in that area, right? And it did like SEO audits of like other people. It gave like zip code breakdowns, told them where to spend their money, how much they should be spending on Google versus
Yeah.
Facebook versus direct mail. Like it was an entire marketing plan like that. Now I say deep research, but it took it like almost 2 hours to do.
Yeah, and honestly, the marketing recommendations are not my favorite from chat. Like I was using chat to kind of help me outline this presentation that I'm making for Blitz. Like I had my idea, it's like here's what I want, here's the outline, help me build the presentation, and it like did that. and it said like in the marketing strategies in my marketing, second or the fourth one, no, the second one, which is on your marketing, its top two recommendations for a starting business were, um, hold on, it was really funny. It was like SEO and um, oh, what was it? Oh, it was something really funny. It was completely bonkers. I'll find what it is, but it was like SEO and something else. I'm like, those are not the first two things that I would go for if I'm starting a painting business for marketing.
For sure, and it definitely makes AI definitely makes mistakes. I mean, I give my prompts guidance, so there was guidance in that prompt, right? And so its results was actually pretty good. The plan I was looking for was more about like area analysis and avatar analysis and what channels are potential and analyzing market capacity in all those channels, like
Yep.
understanding like how many Google searches of X actually happen, so that if I'm getting like say 50 leads a month from Google for this keyword, how many searches are actually there? So I understand like what my capacity for that keyword are. It was that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But so it wasn't like an open-ended, give me a marketing plan, pretty precise. But to the point of the AI and deep research mode, it is fantastic.
Yep.
We've also been playing with a new one. I'm not sure if you've tried yet, called Manus AI. Have you heard of that one yet?
Nope. Mantis, Mantis.
Manus.ai.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Manus. And I found that it does research even better. It's primarily powered by Claude, but it's interesting because it's an app with several AI engines underneath it. So it's not just like one AI brain; it's using multiple. So that's kind of interesting.
Very
So
cool. I'll check
yeah,
it
it's
out.
pretty fun. There's tons of them out there, but yeah, we could spend a whole podcast just on AI probably.
Oh, easy, easy for
Yeah,
sure.
easy, easy.
Well, what I actually have, if it's a resource that your audience wants, are about 40 different prompts, all built in one document that you can use in your
Oh,
painting business,
oh,
like an AI
I
cheat
think they
sheet.
would love that. That's fantastic.
So, if you don't mind, could I give that away?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay, I'll
Please
have to
do.
put it on a. I'll get a page together. But let's just go paintergrowth.com/ uh, AI. Let's just do that. Painter Growth.
Okay.
Wait, is that already a page? Painter Growth. I gotta make sure it's not a page already. Painter. Oh, my Safari is not working. Or my whatever Chrome isn't working. I am freezing up here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, my uh, Riverside is just freaking out. I can't even see anymore. But can you see me?
Yeah, I gotcha. Hmm.
Oh, I can't see. It's all black. Anyway, I don't know
Okay.
what happened. Sure, paintergrowth.com/AI. I'll put together. I'll put in that PDF, and you guys can use it just as a quick start guide for a whole bunch of prompts you can use for your business, and I'll get that to you, Micah here, so you can post that when this one goes live.
That sounds awesome. Awesome. I love it. What kind of things are you using AI for as far as painters? I mean, I know there's a million kind of examples, but you want to give me a couple that like are going to be in that group? A couple examples.
Yeah, things like putting together a job posting, all the way to the scorecard, the responsibilities, the 30-day onboarding guide. Uh, from that to your Facebook ad strategy, how to run your own Facebook ads, what types of creatives and images to use, or creatives and copy to use, what types of settings are the best,
Love it.
to creating the internal processes in your
That's
business,
amazing.
from how to paint, how to do the admin, how to do the resources, and getting all of that in a digestible way so that you can start implementing a SOP system a lot quicker
Yeah.
by using AI.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love all of that. Those are all ways that I'm currently using AI too. Those examples, I'm using all of those right now. My favorite is SOPs and like org charts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know, telling like I'm this big of a company, what should my org chart look like, and give guidance again in deep research mode. But it's pretty freaking dope.
yeah.
I love it.
Love it, man. This has been great. I got to jump here. This has been an amazing conversation.
For sure, man. I'm glad to have you, man. Always amazing conversations. Thanks so much for the free resource, and looking forward to seeing you at the mastermind. And for anyone that do you want to give a URL for that mastermind that's coming up in Arizona, real quick, before you jump?
We're actually only limiting it to our coaching clients.
Existing clients. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
existing
Well,
clients. But if you want to learn more about working with us, we've helped dozens of owners scale to $1 million for the first time, and several owners scale to 3 million and beyond. So if you're looking to get beyond that $1 million mark from 20 30K per month to 100 plus K per month, we can do it. So let's set up a call. I'll throw a link for a call if you want to chat as well. And
awesome. Yeah, paintergrowth.com, guys, and hit up Mike Hickman. And with that said, thanks so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Take care. We'll see you soon.
yeah, thanks for supporting us, and look forward to seeing you at the mastermind.
Awesome, man. Looking forward to it. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you're looking for help growing your contracting business, I invite you to join my free community. In there, we go live with amazing trainings, share resources and downloads, plus you get free help from me and from peers. That link is down below to join, and we'll see you in the next video.